Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 268 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by one of my best friends in this entire universe, the former heavyweight world title challenger. It is of course Mr. Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my brother. How are you?
All good, my friend. All good when speaking with you. Like we always kind of do at the start of the show, I'm going to just tell you how the show is going to work. It's going to be the review part, then the news, then the sole guest, then the preview part, and then that pretty much sees out the show. There's going to be no lockdown, knockdown again, I'm afraid to say, because everything's just been a little bit scrambled at the last minute to record this week. Eddie's been busy when I've been free. Eddie's been free when I've been busy. It's kind of been a bit last minute. So we're going to get everything done. But again, unfortunately for those people that do enjoy the lockdown, knockdown, which by the way, BT Sport over here, the big channel in the UK that put boxing on, that Tyson Fury fights on, and other big stars, they've decided to launch their own kind of, I'm not sure what it is, some sort of spin-off. And it's called the Lockdown Knockdown, which someone pointed out to me. They're stealing it from us. We should have trademarked it. The cheeky.
Damn, sure should have. We should have jumped right on that one.
Yeah, the cheeky rascals. But anyway, getting on to the review part of the show, we're going to start here in France at the H Arena last Friday, November 27th. It's unbelievable that we're already in December. This year has just flown by. At the H Arena, heavyweight fight between Tony Yoka, the Olympic gold medalist, now 9-0, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Christian Hammer, who's now 25-7. He won absolutely every round, and I think Hammer had a point deducted as well, because all three judges handed in identical scorecards, 100-89. A lot of people didn't see it like that, though. A lot of people thought that Hammer actually, provided quite a stern test for Tony Yoka. I wasn't silly enough to sit and watch that, so I couldn't tell you too much about that one. Moving out now to Mexico, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. boxed over here. Just unsure of where he's at in his career, to be honest with you. But anyway, he was back with a win. He's now 52-5 with a draw. A TKO for him in round 4 against Jason Minda, who's now 14-3 with a draw. Minda was down in the second round, the third round, and then finally in the fourth round where he was TKO'd. Moving out now to the City Hall ground, and this is a sad one. It took place in Thailand. I used to call him the real Floyd Mayweather. Chayaphon Moonsri, of course, I'm talking about. Well, I think now he is Floyd Fake Weather, because he's now 54-1. He lost a unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Panya Pradabsri, who is now 35-1. He was a good fighter, to be honest. He was probably the best fighter that Moonsri has boxed for quite a long time. It was for Moonsri's WBC minimum weight world title. He's now been dethroned. According to sources, he was possibly a bit unlucky, because it was quite controversial, I think, on the cards. It was a very close fight. Could have gone either way from what I've read. And perhaps he was hard done by, but it's just crazy. He was going to be 55-0. He retired, I think, earlier this year. He came back for whatever reason. I think he had a retirement that lasted about 3 days. And now I wish he'd stayed retired. I'm sure he wished he'd stayed retired as well. But anyways, he's lost his O. That now means that Mayweather has he's in a league of his own in terms of undefeated streaks with his 50-0. Moving out now to the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, USA. Not sure if you saw any of this, Eddie, but Daniel Jacobs, Gabe Rosado, did you see any of it?
I missed it, but I wanted to see it.
Okay.
And honestly, I wasn't paying attention and forgot that he was even on.
Okay.
And it was on Saturday?
That was Friday night.
On Friday night, okay.
Anyway, it was the worst fight I think I've possibly ever seen in my entire life.
Wow, really?
It was absolutely terrible, okay? Daniel Jacobs now 37-3, a split decision win over 12 rounds to Gabriel Rosado, who's now 25-13 with a draw. Shocking, to be completely honest. It was the worst fight for many reasons. One of the reasons is that it was very much like a sparring session. There was absolutely no atmosphere. Daniel Jacobs was so not on his A game. He was so not on the ball that his corner man actually said to him, "Have you bet on yourself to stop him late or something? You're not doing anything in these rounds." Gabe Rosado turned up, and I can't believe it. What happened to Gabe Rosado? It wasn't a brawl. It was a boxing match. Gabe Rosado opted to box. He had Freddie Roach in his corner. He seemed like a different fighter. Not saying he was a great fighter, but Daniel Jacobs was so poor. I wasn't scoring the fight, but I felt that Rosado probably did enough to win from what I could see. And a lot of people are in agreement. And the craziest thing ever is mainly me. I was slating him last week, saying he needs to retire, blah, blah, blah. I thought he won the fight, so did many others. And this was absolutely terrible. They had the pair in the ring. The MC picked up the microphone. He reads out, one guy scores it for Rosado, one guy scores it for Jacobs, and, the other judge scores it 115, 113, whatever the hell the scorecard was. And he says, to your winner from Philadelphia, Brooklyn, New York. So Rosado's already celebrating when he hears Philadelphia. And it turns out that the MC completely messed it up and actually Jacobs won. So Jacobs, when he heard Philadelphia, was starting to kind of, his head was down at the ground, and all of a sudden, Gabe Rosado's up on the ring post celebrating. He can't believe that he's got the decision. Well, he could believe it because he thought he won. And it's just a bizarre mistake. And that ended up being the talking point of the fight. Eddie, I wish I was you because I wish I could get that time back. Don't dare watch the fight. It was terrible. I think Rosado should have won. On that, I don't feel like I want to see either of them again, to be honest with you. Rosado had never really been in a boring fight his entire career, which was just crazy because, this was terrible compared to his usual standards. And Jacobs was terrible, and it just looked like a sparring session of two guys who had done maybe 50 rounds prior to getting in the ring. It was terrible. It had just one pace throughout. People were saying on Twitter, if there were fans there, they'd be booing. They half of them would have left. I mean, it was dreadful. I cannot stamp on it any more than what I'm saying here. This was the worst of the worst. I never want to see it again. Like, honestly, It would be punishment. If you tied me to a chair and made me watch that, I'd tell you all the information I know. It was dreadful.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's how passionate I am on it. I mean, it was terrible. Anyway, on the undercard, there was one good fight between the Olympic gold medalist Daniil Yelusinov. He's now 10-0. A brilliant win for him. A TKO in 2 rounds against Julius Indongo, now 23-3, the former unified world champion. It's kind of sad to see. He's just seemed to, come down the slide, I guess, really fast. It was for the vacant IBF Intercontinental welterweight title. They're talking about Daniil Yelusinov against Virgil Ortiz. I'd love to see that fight. But, Yelusinov, he looked good. To stop a guy like that in 2 rounds, it's impressive. I don't think Prograde did it in 2. I think maybe Prograde did take him out in 2, actually. I think Crawford maybe got him out there in 3 or 4. So, that's as good as anyone's beaten in Indongo, and for it to only be Yelusinov's 10th fight, very impressive. He seems to be getting better all the time. In the pro ranks, he's improving a lot. Moving out now to the Church House in Westminster, London, United Kingdom. Brilliant venue, by the way. Let's start with the undercard here. A good win for David Adelaide. He picked up the TKO in 2 rounds against Danny Whitaker. Adelaide now 4-0. Whitaker now 4-2. Also on that card, we got to see Jack Macy move to 17-1. A points win for him over 8 rounds against Mohammed Farid, who's now 16-2 with a draw. Jack Catterall, obviously waiting on that call up for the mandatory for Jose Ramirez. I think he's accepted some sort of step aside money. He had a bit of a keep busy fight, really. His career has been so stagnated, man. It's just stop start all the time. He hasn't had the breaks, and then when he got in position to get a big fight, he's taken step aside money. It's like, I don't know, man. His career is really stalled. Anyway, he came back with a win, a points win over 10 rounds against Abduzzarak Huya, who's now 14-3. To be honest, Catterall should have got his man out of there, and I think Catterall was, he got cut in the fight. I'm pretty sure he got cut, if I remember correctly. Hoya was down in the 6th round and once in the 9th round, but he did end up going the distance. Hamza Shiraz picked up a win. He's now 12-0. A defence of his WBO European super welterweight title against Guido Pitto, who's now 26-8 with 2 draws. A TKO came for Shiraz in the 10th and final round. After the fight, Carl Frampton went on to say that he thinks he is the best prospect in Britain, which is a very, very, very big statement, actually. He's good, Hamza Shiraz, for sure, but I don't think it was the right performance to say that afterwards, you know. He's had more impressive fights, way more impressive fights, actually. It wasn't the most exciting of his recent outings, that's for sure. And moving up to the main event, Daniel Dubois, 15-0 against Joe Joyce, 11-0. Both men obviously undefeated. 5 titles on the line, I think it was in the end. I can't even remember which ones now. It was the British heavyweight title, the Commonwealth title, the vacant EBU European title. I believe the WBC silver was on the line, and I think maybe even one other title, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, both men had only gone the distance once in their respective careers, and I mean, I really enjoyed it. Some people saying it didn't live up to the hype. It was one of those fights where I was kind of on the edge of my seat for the entire thing, so I really thoroughly enjoyed it, just because I felt that Dubois has got the power to just end a fight within 1 second. You know, it takes one shot from him. We've seen it more times than not. Only one guy to go the distance with him. So I was really excited, and I enjoyed the fight, man. I really did. I'm going to go through the rounds. Obviously, it ended with Joyce winning by KO in round 10. Going through the rounds. Round 1, for me, a Joe Joyce round. Surprisingly, I felt... I was quite surprised that he was on the front foot with good pressure. You know, he was pushing Daniel Dubois back. Daniel's head movement straight away was starting to tell. He had none of it, absolutely none. He was getting nailed with the jab. His nose seemed to be, on the TV anyway, reddening up already in that first round. Joyce's jabs to the body were working nice as well. I like to see that from big guys. Round 2, Dubois, for me, won that round. He was on the front foot. He caught Joe Joyce multiple times with straight right hands. Joyce seemed to be a little bit out of his rhythm that he had in the first round. It was a bit untidy. Round 3, a good start to the round for Dubois, a good finish for Joyce though. It was a hard round to score. I felt like if I had to be pushed, then I would have gone with Dubois. Really, because I don't know. I don't know who was more active, to be honest, because Dubois seemed to land, quite a few more power shots. Joyce seemed to find a home for his jab in that round. It was just a really hard round to score. A possibility of a 10-10 round, which Richie Woodall actually scored, I believe. Round 4, another really close one. If I had to edge it to anyone, I'd go with Joyce there. It was a great round. Round 5, for me, a Dubois round. He put a lot into that round. You could see the effort he was putting in was quite taxing. He was having to dig deep. He was having a lot of success with his right hand, though. Joyce was taking a lot of clean shots, but again, to his credit, he wasn't really looking bothered by the shots. It was starting to really hot up at this point, for me anyway. It was very interesting, going into those other rounds there. Round 6, Another round for Dubois again for me. He seemed to have success when he threw combinations. Joyce was only really jabbing and throwing two-punch combos. Dubois was landing here and there. It wasn't an easy round to score yet again, but for me, Dubois just edged it. Dubois' eye as well was starting to close fully in that 6th round. Round 7, for me, Dubois again won that round. He was really having to dig deep. He looked dead on his store at the end of every round, but somehow he found the energy from somewhere to go out and perform well. And he boxed quite cleverly, actually, in the 7th round. Joyce had success again with the 1-2 the first time he threw a shot to Dubois' head. Because, you know, a lot of the time he was going for the body and stuff like that. Dubois round, again, like I say, for me there. And again, Joyce was taking some clean shots off Dubois. That's when the tide seemed to turn. Round 8, for me, just gave the round to Joyce. It was close. Joyce was being sneaky with his shots on the inside. Dubois was just missing by inches with big shots. You were always kind of saying to yourself, if that landed, ooh. But they didn't land. Round 9, a big round for Joyce. He was picking Dubois off with the jab, and that seemed to be the undoing, to be honest. Dubois was not able to get past Joyce's jab at all. He was getting picked off. Joyce looked really strong. He looked like he was in control. The fight was being fought at his pace. And like I say, he won the round with ease. And then round 10, well, it didn't last long. Like I say, it was quite a demoralising 9th round for Daniel Dubois. Round 10, yeah, I think it was 30 seconds into the round, he walks into a jab straight on his left eye, which of course had been closed for about 4 rounds. And it was a great shot because he walked straight into it, so it was powerful. And, you know, instantly kind of winced and then took a knee and then allowed for himself to be counted out. Brilliant win for Joe Joyce, who obviously was a big underdog. A lot of people won money on the fight because the general consensus was Dubois early or Joyce late or Joyce on points. And Dubois, even though I give him massive amounts of credit because he got in there, you could see he seemed to be burning up a lot of nervous energy. It was a very kind of thinking man's fight, if you like. I don't think he's had to think like that in fights like that before, and he seemed like he was gassing really early. And you know, he went out there and, like I say, he looked dead on his store in between rounds. Sometimes he went back out there, he fought hard, he fought well, and I was proud of him. You know, I think he answered a few questions, to be honest, but the question he didn't answer, and a question that no one really had for him prior to this, was what is his heart like? And he didn't pass that kind of gut check. Now, I know that after the fight we found out that he had nerve damage around that left eye and, I believe, a fractured orbital bone, and we know how dangerous that can be. You know, Kell Brook obviously springs to mind in this situation where, you know, it happened against Golovkin, and then in the very next fight, the other eye, it happened with Errol Spence. But I don't know. He took the knee. He allowed himself to get counted out. Initially, everyone's thinking he's quit there, you know, and you have to say he did quit there, you know. Was it the right thing to do for his health? Absolutely. Do I think he's, you know, not going to be able to come back from this? It's going to haunt him forever? No, I don't think so. But I've heard the saying said before, and I kind of do stick by it. If you quit once, you can quit again. It's not hard to do the same thing again. The fact of the matter is he allowed himself to get counted out, and it's a quit. I think I want to see Joyce kind of pushed on. I think he's now going to get that number 2 spot with the WBO. Should Anthony Joshua vacate his belt, because, you know, Usyk doesn't want to step aside, so he's going to be there saying, I want my shot, and it's going to probably get in the way of a potential Fury-Joshua not unification. It would be for all the belts, so it would be an undisputed fight, but I think he's going to probably have to drop the WBO to get Usyk off his back, and then Usyk would be fighting for the vacant title against Joe Joyce. I want to see that for Joyce. They're foes from the amateurs. I'd like to see Joyce in a big fight. I want to see Frank Warren promote him properly, because he promoted both Joyce and Dubois, but he had no problem in the build-up saying he wanted Dubois to win and thought Dubois would win. Very strange. Credit to Joe Joyce's corner man as well. I said it on last week's show that Ishmael Salas, you know, he's been in the States. He wasn't with Joe Joyce for any of his training camp. for the coronavirus stuff, and he's training other guys out there and all that. He came over on fight week, and then when they tested him for coronavirus, he had coronavirus, so he couldn't even be at the fight. He just stayed in the hotel all week, and then he's gone back. So shout out to, I think it's Steve Broughton or Steve Broughton, I believe it is. I hope I'm not getting the name wrong. I don't want to say inexperienced, because he's been kind of in the background with some big fights and stuff, but he took center stage there. He was the main man in the corner. Credit to him. He needs some serious credit. I'm worrying about Dubois on the comeback, obviously, because I think these injuries can reoccur, and if something were to happen like that again, would he do the same thing? It's a tough one. I just think Frank, with his siding towards Dubois in the build-up, it was quite uncomfortable, and I thought maybe it was for promotional purposes, to try and build up the fight, because obviously Joe Joyce has got a manager with a really kind of big mouth, Sam Jones. He's a brilliant, he's a manager, but he's a brilliant promoter for stuff like this, and he talks a lot and says a lot and gets under people's skin. And, he was kind of against Frank Warren, if you like. So I thought it was that. But in the post-fight interview when Joyce beat Dubois, you could kind of feel the tension between the pair. And it doesn't look good. But, yeah, I'm going to finish on this bit on it as well. Because a lot of people were saying that Joyce was really disrespectful and stuff like that afterwards. And I've watched what everyone's watched. Because initially I was saying, what? I must have seen something different. I've watched it. And apparently I didn't see anything different. It's the same thing I've seen. Basically, he gets interviewed after the fight, and he says that he was happy that they stopped it as soon as they did. And that was not him being disrespectful. That was him giving Dubois credit. He went on to say that, I think it was in an interview with IFL TV, he also said he had ringing in his ears way after the fight. Like, when he was doing the interview, he still had ringing in his ears. He didn't want to trade with Dubois. He knew he couldn't do that. These are things here where he's giving Joyce credit. He's not... not Joyce. He's giving Dubois credit. He wasn't disrespectful. I don't know how anyone can come up with that. And yeah, if you want to talk about disrespect, by the way, let's talk about Dubois when he said something about Joe Joyce's mum, about her being blind or deaf, whichever one it is. She's disabled. She's either deaf or she's blind. Anyway, I don't think he meant to say what he said. He said something quite distasteful in the build-up, Dubois, and I actually don't think he knew that she was disabled before he said it. So even that, that was the thing. If you're going to pick at something, if you're going to nitpick, heavyweight boxing fight, if you're going to nitpick, that's the thing to pick at, not what Joyce said, which I think got took out of context a bit. But anyway, I don't think Dubois was being nasty either. But there's great respect between the pair. And sorry, Eddie, I know you're trying to jump in, but yeah, there's great respect between the pair. I want to see Joyce pushed on, big fights for him. Dubois, I'd like to see him come back against a solid opponent, not the kind of guys he's been boxing recently. I'd like to see him in there with someone like, I think a good fight for him would probably be like a Christian Hammer, like a Marius Wack, someone like that, even though I think Hammer boxed obviously Yoka on the same or on the same weekend, just gone, and Wack is fighting Huey Fury. I think it's on the Joshua undercard. So those kind of guys I want to see him in with, and a great one, probably the best fight that could be made against the former European champion, would be Ajit Caballel, still undefeated. I don't know how he lost the belt, but obviously Joyce has now got it. It was on the line, it was vacant. He should beat him, and that'll prove to people that he is European level without having to get back in with Joyce or whatever. But anyway, hopefully it's not a long comeback trial. He's still young. I could go on all night, Eddie. Stop me and jump in.
No, I was just getting clarification on why people thought that was disrespectful when Joe Joyce said something about him that he stopped it when he did.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, because he basically... I think they said like, it was quite quick into the round, because they had the pair of them together, like they were stood up both after the fight, both 2 meters apart, getting interviewed, and they said, it was a very sudden stoppage in the 10th round. Obviously, Daniel, you got counted out by the referee or whatever, and they said something like, "What did you make of it?" to Joe Joyce, and he said, "Well, I was happy that it got stopped when it did." And he kind of awkwardly laughed. But if you hear Joyce talk, he he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. He's not. I don't know. Some things he says gets took out of context. He's not like the smoothest talker at all. I think some people are getting that twisted. But if you know him, he's a good guy. He showed him respect. He said about his ears ringing after the shots. He said he couldn't actually stand and trade with him. He didn't want to do any of that. You can't be any more respectful. People are just twisting up the words or taking it out of context when it doesn't need to be, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I was thinking that he was saying he was happy that he stopped it because either it was good that he didn't have to go any more rounds with him, or it was more because he didn't obviously want to continue to batter him. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to just have the fight over and for, no one to get hurt. That's what I was taking from it. It was one or the other. You know what I mean? Either one is respectful. One is you don't want to see the other fighter get hurt unnecessarily when you clearly see that they're at this point not going to be, active defensively or offensively. It's pointless to have them continue. Or you were like, man, I'm just glad I made it out of there without having to exchange with him anymore and take any more crazy shots. You know what I'm saying? So either way is a respectful assessment of it.
And I agree 100% with what you've said. And like I say, in the build-up to the fight, let's say that Joe Joyce's mum is blind, for example. Yeah. Daniel Dubois said something at the first press conference when she was there. She was actually present, and he said something about like, I don't want to. I'm really taking it out of context because I can't remember. But he said something along the lines of like, you're going to see your son get knocked out, but she's blind, so of course she can't see her son get knocked out. So it was like, you shouldn't say that. But again, I don't think he was being nasty. I just think he didn't know that she was blind or whatever, So if you're going to nitpick at something, though, that's the thing to pick at. People are acting. I'm starting to think of some people that are offended by what Joe Joyce said. Did they have loads of money on Dubois to win the fight or something? It just seems too personal.
It makes you wonder. Yeah, it makes you wonder. Well, a lot of people are like that with their athletes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are certain people that just are fans, and no matter what the other person does, no matter what the other person says, and remember, he lost. So if you're a fan of his, you're just going to look for everything to be, to pick at or to be upset about because obviously your guy lost, so that you don't have that to share about. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things, man. And people are going to take these things out of context because it's their prerogative, it's their decision to make of it whatever they want to. And like I said, they're upset their guy lost the fight, so they're going to pick at everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but swiftly moving on anyway, because I don't want to upset some listeners as well, but that's just the way I saw it. It doesn't mean I'm right. Eddie didn't see it at all. He's just explaining a possibility. It doesn't mean I'm right. I could be wrong. That's just the way I saw it. But yeah, I'm giving my opinion on this podcast. But moving out now stateside to the Staples Center in Los Angeles, USA. Let's start with... Well, I'm not even going to talk about the main event because, it was what it was. It was great to see Mike back. I don't want to see a regular thing out of it. 54 years of age. He looked a lot fitter than Roy Jones did, considering he retired a much longer time ago than Roy Jones. But, yeah, anyway, leaving that there, man, because that's just pointless. But, Badu Jack picked up a win, a unanimous decision for him over 8 rounds, a complete shutout against Blake McKernan, who's now 13-1. He was undefeated there. Badu Jack now 23-3 with 3 draws. Jake Paul, it has to be said. I hate to say this, but it has to be said. He boxed this guy called Nate Robinson. I didn't know anything about Nate Robinson. What did you say? Was it a basketball player, right?
Yeah, he was an NBA player. He's it. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Jake Paul got in there and stopped him in 2 rounds. And the reason why I bring it up is because, sadly, and it is very sad, but sadly, it's probably one of the best knockouts in boxing of 2020. I don't know what to say. It was. When we talk about the knockout of the year contenders, I almost want to punch myself in the face. One of them is a flipping YouTuber, man.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it crazy?
It is, but it was a good finish. And like we said, I know you got a little bit confused between, the 2 brothers, Logan Paul and Jake Paul, but he can fight a bit, he takes his training serious, that guy.
Well, yeah, these guys like his brother, him, they seem to be a little bit. They're into it. You know what I mean? They're trying to make it a career. He's taking it obviously, somewhat serious. He's been involved in it a year or 2 years now. So I mean, you give him credit right there, but it's just tough, man. When you're looking at, I mean, I understand what the card was supposed to be about. I mean, the card is about guys from different places, different walks of life, at different points in their life, making boxing their particular. I don't want to say getaway, but their next lane, their lane too. And I appreciate it, but you can't do that in the NBA. You can't all of a sudden up in one day think about, hey, you know what? I want to try. I want to be an NBA player. Now you can say that, you can try to do that, but you're probably not going to be successful. So why in the hell is it okay, or that it can happen that a guy from the NBA, a guy that is a YouTuber, a guy that is just fresh off the street, basically just saying he's going to turn professional and fight for a living. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out here, man, that have put their life on the line with this game for so long. And to see these guys who Johnny come lately, but because they're given a voice because of their popularity in another form, I just don't think it's fair to other fighters. But then again, whatever sells tickets. And I understand that's part of the game. It's business. But whatever.
And what did you make of the commentary? Did you listen to the commentary for these fights, by the way?
I did. Actually, who I actually liked a bit, and I don't know if you're gonna, crucify me for saying it, but the MMA guy, what's his name? God dang it, can't remember his name. I was just talking about his commentary was actually not bad.
But you heard Snoop on the mic, right?
Yeah, he was there too. Snoop. You know what? And
he was funny, wasn't he?
He was funny. He's funny. Yeah, I liked him. I liked him on there too. I mean, you're getting. I like how they adopted this as like a kind of a loose kind of broadcast. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like that about it. You know what I mean? I feel like the MMA guy was probably the best one of all. I mean, obviously Mauro, what's his name? Mauro Ronaldo. I hope I'm not messing his name up.
No idea.
He's obviously experienced, and he's done several different, shows at, MMA, boxing, everything. And then Sugar Ray Leonard was there, and then Israel Adesanya. That's his name, Israel Adesanya. He was doing really good with the commentary. I really liked his commentary. It was comfortable, laid back, relaxed, sound really comfortable with what he was saying. Named things that made sense. I mean, he's an MMA fighter doing a boxing broadcast, but he seemed like he was knowledgeable enough about it to actually come over right to the boxing people. Also, when Snoop got on, he added some humor to it. Like when Nate Robinson was in there trying to go at him all crazy, talking about slow down, nephew, like all that stuff that he was saying. It was funny. It lightened the situation, but at the same time, it was still pretty good, and it was just good to listen to him all. You know what I mean? I've always said I really like Snoop as a performer. Like, he doesn't, like, even when he's doing his thing and is performing, rapping or whatever, he doesn't scream over the music. It just sounds like it works a lot better. So him as a commentator kind of just flowed too. So it was all right. The whole thing was all right. Somewhat of a sideshow thing going on, but it wasn't bad.
I liked when Mike and Roy were fighting, and Snoop said that this is he said it's like watching two of my uncles fighting at a barbecue.
Yeah, he did say that. That was, but see, that's what I'm saying. Like, the funny thing is, I mean, these guys have been on TV and been speaking over microphones for basically most of their adult lives and half of their young lives. You know what I mean? So they're so comfortable in front of the camera, with their voice being heard. It's just like anything. It's just like them talking to friends. So they're people. I don't know, thousands or millions of people listen to them on TV, and it just sounds like they're talking amongst some guys in the barbershop. So it's kind of good, man. It's lighthearted. I actually like the commentary a lot.
SNOOPDOGG.
Okay, Joe.
I used to be a lot better doing.
Rapping too?
I used to be a lot better doing my Snoop Dogg impression. That very well might get cut out, actually, or bleeped out. I haven't done that for years, but I was good. I was good back in the day with my Snoop impression. Because you know what it is, like, when you get older, obviously your voice breaks a bit, but Snoop's voice ain't really, he's got quite a high voice, you know? So when my voice kind of broke and got a bit deeper, it was like, yeah, that's the end of the Snoop impressions, you know? Anyway.
Yeah.
Moving out now to the Park Production Studios. This fight card took place yesterday at the Park Production Studios in South Kirkby, Yorkshire. It was the Golden Contract Finals. Let's start with the featherweight finals. We had Jazza Dickens with a brilliant win. It was a defense of his WBO European featherweight title. He is just on such a run now, Jazza Dickens, man. He's had a real kind of tricky life, you know. That's his 30th win. He's got 3 losses. He's just had, you know, he's been one of them guys. He hasn't been promoted properly ever. You know, he hasn't been with a major promoter, I don't think. And, you know, he's just put together a brilliant run. You know, his last loss came 3.5 years ago to Thomas Patrick Ward. Thomas Patrick Ward hasn't really done anything since then. And he's just coming off this brilliant run, obviously beating Nathaniel May, beating Carlos Ramos, beating Lee Wood, beating Ryan Walsh now. He's just, you know, he deserves something. And he said it himself in the post-fight interview. He's beaten European champions and, you know, he's beaten British champions. The next step is he wants a world title shot. Obviously, you know, he's been stopped he's been stopped twice. He got stopped to Rigondo, didn't he? And he got stopped to Kid Galahad, all them years ago. But, yeah, you know, he deserves some kind of luck. And I'm really pleased for him, man. He's a friend of the show. I had him on once before. And he was cooking lobster while I was interviewing him. Which I remember these weird things sometimes. I'm not sure why. But sometimes I've done interviews with people in random places. Like I did a few interviews with Dave Allen when he was completely naked in the bath. You know, but it is what it is.
Sounds like Dave.
Sounds
just like Dave. Yeah.
But anyway, brilliant win for Jazza Dickens. I mean, I thought Walsh would probably win the fight, but really made up for Jazza Dickens. So yeah, Ryan Walsh now 26-3 with 2 draws. Didn't look his absolute best, to be honest, but it is what it is. Moving on to the light heavyweight finals for the WBO European light heavyweight title. Ricard Zbolotniks with a TKO in the 10th and final round. There was only 15 seconds left in the round. He almost made the distance. Sergey Michel, I think it is. He's now 11-2. Bolotnik's now 18-5 with a draw. Yeah, he was down, I think, in the 5th round, Michel, and down once in the 10th, and then his corner threw the towel in, and it was the right decision, even though there was 15 seconds left. I think his dad's his corner man or his trainer or whatever. Even though there was only 15 seconds left, he was absolutely done, like completely done. And I'm gutted because it would have been nice to see him go the distance, but what a brilliant win there for Bolotniks. You know, he's put together such an amazing run. He beat Stephen Stephen Ward in the quarterfinals of the tournament. Then he beat Hosea Burton, and now he's beaten Michel. I mean, he is just again on a brilliant run, serious momentum, and I picked him to win by stoppage late on as well, and he did. So brilliant win for him. And on the undercard, brilliant fight between Daniel Egbenike 6-0 against Harlem Eubank 10-0. It ended after 10 rounds with a points decision going in favour of Harlem Eubank, 97-94 for him, scored by the referee Phil Edwards. Eubank, you know, very, very good fighter, obviously. Boxing at 140, and there's some great fights for him down the line. He's looking at fighting for the English title, I think, in his next fight or in the next couple fights. I want to see him pushed on. You know, he's kind of been spoke about for a long time. Obviously carries that very famous surname, Eubank, and we'll see what the future holds for him. He's got an exciting future. It was a brilliant fight as well. Both men shared a common opponent in Martin McDonough. Both guys held a win over him. And brilliant fight. Really applaud MTK for making that one. But anyway, that's it for the review part of the show. I'm going to just mention briefly 2 pieces of news that I have here. If anything else develops from now to the end of the show, I'll discuss it when I'm signing out. Florian Marcu, I always thought he was Romanian. No, maybe he's not. I can't remember where he's from now. But anyway, he signed with Matchroom. That's a big move for him. Obviously looked good on that Ultimate Boxer undercard or whatever. He's now signed with Matchroom, got quite a big fan base. He wants to fight the likes of Conor Benn and stuff like that. We shall see. And also the other piece is that Julio Cesar Martinez will be defending his WBC World Flyweight title on the Canelo Callum Smith undercard. He takes on Francisco Rodriguez Jr. No surprise really, seeing as they both train with Canelo's trainer, whose name I've forgot his name right now for some reason. Oh gosh. Anyway, I forgot the guy's name. That's so poor on my part. Who's Canelo's trainer? I've totally forgot his name. Anyway, is it Eddie Reynoso? Eddie Reynoso, yeah. Anyway, that's it for the two pieces of news, and that closes part one. The final thing to do is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former British, Commonwealth and European champion. It is, of course, Mr. Sam Eggington. Sam, welcome back on the show, my man.
I appreciate it, pal. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Sam. So, like I said, we last had you back on the podcast in 2017. It's been a long time. It was just before the Ceferino Rodriguez fight, which obviously was a brilliant one. But a lot has happened since then. Let's get up to date. You're coming off that fight of the year contender against Ted Cheeseman. What a brilliant fight. Just briefly, Sam, how do you kind of assess that fight looking back now? I know that you felt hard done by on the night. Many people agree with you.
Yeah, I still do, pal. I still do. It's one of the hardest pills to swallow, if I'm honest, of all of them. I'm okay with, coming out of a fight and losing. I'm alright with that. When you come out and you say, look, I just weren't the better man on the night. I just believe that with that fight I was, and I won that fight. So what can you do about it, though?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even though Ted pretty much dismissed it immediately, will you be gutted if you never get that rematch? Is that something that will kind of bite away at you, eat away at you, I guess?
I think so. I mean, I think it will. Yeah. I mean, it's one of them ones that, like I say, it sounds bad, but I'm okay with losing if I'm the worst man on the night. I'm okay with that. I can deal with that. If someone's better than me on the night, then they deserve to win. That night, that weren't the case. It just wasn't. And I think that's what eats away. Like, no matter what you do,
yeah,
you can't get the nod. It's unreal.
No, and like I say, you boxed so good that night, man. Like, that's one of the best performances I've seen you perform.
You know what? It's hard as well. Yeah. People keep saying that to me, and I can't watch the fight. I've watched it in bits. I've watched around here, around there. I can't watch the full fight out, and it's hard. It's bad because people say, "Oh, you box the best you ever boxed," yada yada yada. But it's a wonder because I can't watch it, man. It's a sickness.
Yeah, I can understand. Well, I can imagine. But let's move on to positive things. Your next fight takes place next Friday on Channel 5 against Ashley Theophane. This is the kind of perfect comeback fight for you, I believe. Am I right in saying this is the perfect kind of opponent for you to get a good win over following that controversial decision?
I think so. I think it's a very good name to come back to. I feel like someone like Theophane, everyone knows his history, so there will be people on both sides of the pond watching his fight. So I just think, it's a great name to have. And hopefully, I'll go out there and I'll do a good job.
And like you said, everyone knows his history. He's been around the Mayweathers. He's kind of been on this world tour where he's been going to different countries, beating guys, but not really beating guys of a significant level, I must add. Coming back to the UK after all these years, and he's already been saying this is going to be his last fight. He's going to sail off into the sunset after this. That's a dangerous mentality, in my opinion, to have when taking someone like you on. Would you agree with that? It's a bit dangerous of his thinking.
I think so. I mean, it's not so much dangerous as just a foot already out the door. Do you know what I mean? It's already a way out. Bam, my last fight. I'm old. Yada yada yada. He's already got a foot out the door. It doesn't matter. So I think that's all he's doing. I think that's, unless, he's really trying to play mind games and he's going to come out fucking all guns blazing, which I doubt. So I just think it's a foot out the door, He's going to get in, he's going to try and have it for a few rounds, and once he understands that, he's probably past his best and he's not going to get a win, he's just going to fold, and he's already got his excuse. My last fight, I'm just back. Yeah, I think that's what it is more than anything.
It would be great if he did come out and it was some kind of mind games. But I want to ask you this, Sam, as well. Where do you feel like you are in your career now? Obviously, you've won every belt available to you aside from a world title. Do you still feel that you're at the same level you were able to get to at the peak of your career? People forget you're still so young, of course.
Yeah, honestly, pal, I'm not just saying this. People keep asking me this. I've never enjoyed my work as much as I do now. Like, when I was winning the British and the Commonwealth and the European, it was a job. Like, I'd turn up, you can ask my coach, I'd turn up to the gym. I'd have a face on me like you wouldn't believe. I wouldn't talk to nobody. I'd get my work done and I'd get out of the gym, and that was it. That was a day at work. But I've never enjoyed training and being around the gym and just generally learning as much as I am now. I know that's going to sound like, of course, he's saying that he's got a fight coming up. I don't lie. I don't need to lie. I've told everyone a few times that, it's a job, but I'm generally enjoying it now, and I think I think it's coming out, and like you say, it come out in my last performance. So, but yeah, so I'm hoping, we'll get this win. We'll push on to bigger things, but just have to wait and see.
And Sam, what are the bigger things? Obviously, it's been a crazy year for everyone, but to close out the year with a good win over Theophane, where would you see yourself going after that?
It's hard to say, pal. I just literally wait for the phone to ring. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd love to Liam Smith. I literally was, I was in the gym doing bits, and the Italian job come up. So I don't. It's hard to plan anything when you're in my position. You just gotta wait and hope that the phone will ring, and you'll have some sort of shot at some sort of title, and that's what I'll do. I'll hopefully I'll get Theophane out of the way, and someone will be watching somewhere that I'll think, you know what, it'd be a good fight for this title, that title, this person or that person, and we'll go from there.
And obviously, when you were at welterweight, there was so many names domestically. There's still so many names domestically. But up at 154, there's perhaps not the strength in names there. But you still have a good bunch of guys. Do you have any kind of interest in fighting anyone in particular in Britain? Like, I want to throw a name at you just completely off the top of my head. He won a fight the weekend just gone. Hamza Shiraz, a young prospect. Are you looking at bigger things than that? Is that nothing interesting to you about that?
I think there's not much there for me, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I saw him. He boxed someone from our gym, actually. He boxed Ryan Kelly. And he does what he does well. He does well, but there's nothing for me there. If I went out and beat Hamza Shiraz, that people would say, okay. So you got when you're taking these fights, you got to have the same as you'll gain as much as you'll lose. Do you know what I mean? What's that saying? If I lost against Hamza Shiraz, then it would all be over. If I beat him, people would be like, yeah, he's only had 13 fights, so you meant to beat him. So you just got to wait it all up.
Yeah, I like that answer, and that's very honest of you as well. Just coming down to the real kind of last proper question. You say it's kind of hard to plan out your next moves. You don't know what happens if you win the fight. You're not sure exactly what's going to come next. But we are in the month of December now. What is on your Christmas wish list in terms of 2021 for you, career-wise? A win over Theophane in a realistic world, but if it was all up to you, what do you want 2021 to bring you in boxing?
Just a constant array of fights. I need stability. I need someone to say, look, you can box 4 times this year, 3 times this year, and I'd be happy. I could do that. It's when you don't know what's coming, and you got a box from one day to the next, just hoping that the next fight will come. I need stability. I need a constant flurry of fights. The more active I have, everyone says it, the better your box, and I believe that.
Yeah, well, like I say, I hope that you are active in 2021. Obviously, in 2019, you had 6 fights, so that was pretty active there. But, I hope that comes true for you, my friend. And just before we let you go, if you've got any closing words to your supporters, to listeners of this show, like I say, it's been 3 long years since we last had you on. What's your message to anyone that's listening that supports you, my friend?
Tune in, man. Tune in and get me on more often.
Definitely. Listen, if you're not tuning in, it's on Channel 5, obviously, next Friday. You'd be a fool to not tune in. It is going to be brilliant. I'm really looking forward to it myself. Listen, Sam, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, my friend. We definitely will get you on more often. Best of luck for next Friday. I hope we can catch up sometime after.
Nice one, pal. Appreciate it.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part is the preview part, but before we get into that, it's time for Eddie's quiz question. Eddie, you looking forward to this?
Yeah, let's go. I'm ready to get another dub.
Well,
let's go.
Well, don't get ahead of yourself, because this one was sent in from @Ricey_SUFC. He's a very loyal listener. He's been listening for a long, long time. Honestly, a great guy. He said, I've got an easy one to extend Eddie's winning streak. Now, I'm not sure if he was being sarcastic, because this is, I think it's quite a difficult question. So he says, I'll give you a clue as well if you...
if you're struggling, which I will be.
Yeah. He says, who was the first heavyweight to regain the heavyweight world title?
So the first person to lose it and then regain it.
Yeah, lose it and regain it.
The first 2-time heavyweight champion of the world.
Yes.
Why do y'all keep giving me these heavyweight questions?
I thought that would suit you, man.
It does kind of. The first 2 times. The reason why this is hard, because, well, you know what? Give me the clue. Give me the clue. All right. And then I'll go from there, and I'll let you know if I'm right.
Okay.
I mean, well, I'll let you know if I feel confident enough to be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Let's go.
Okay, so he was the first, first heavyweight to regain the title, and he was also the first. Basically, him and his son both were world champions. It's the first father and son to win world titles in boxing history. So he's the first in that too. First to do that too, yeah.
Jesus, now you're killing me now. Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm trying to think of now father and sons who, and especially in the heavyweight division, who both were world titleists. This is really not that easy. It's really not. But son.
Yeah, his son wasn't a heavyweight world champion, though.
Oh, wait. His son never won a title, right?
No, his son was a world champion, but he wasn't a heavyweight.
Well, but he wasn't a heavyweight, because I was about to be wrong as hell, because I was about to say something.
What was you going to say?
But his son wasn't heavy. No. It's so wrong, and I know it wasn't it. But his son wasn't. His son was a champion, but he wasn't a heavyweight champion, right?
That's right.
Hold on. Oh, please don't do this to me. So now I'm thinking really, really hard. All right. Can you give me one more? And about what era of boxing?
So, firstly, I believe his son is adopted, by the way. I believe he's adopted. He's got a double... Well, he's got like a double-barrel surname, the son. One which is after his heavyweight world champion father, and he, by the way, was a world champion. He was a 2-weight world champion in the 1990s, but his dad was a heavyweight world champion in the 60s. This is a big clue now.
It is a big clue. Why the fuck did I think of it, man? And he was in the 1990s. And his dad was And he said he was in the 90s. Why can't I? And I'll bet you it's something that I probably thought of a couple times and was like kind of glossed over it because I didn't think it was that. He wasn't a heavyweight.
The son wasn't a heavyweight. The dad
Yeah, I
was
know.
the heavyweight.
That was a fucking heavyweight. But he said like he might be adopted. And I'm just drawing a blank right now. Like I don't understand why.
I'll give you another clue. The dad
Okay.
had two fights against Muhammad Ali.
Oh, wait. Wait. Hold on. Had 2 fights with him. Now, oh, wow. I know who it is. And we're talking about the dad, not the son, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the dad was Leon Spinks.
No.
What?
No.
What? Not. Wait. Are you sure? Because you said the son was not a heavyweight, and he was a world champion. He lost it and gained it back. So was the dad, right? Or was it? Please.
I said that they were the first father-son world champions. I don't know if it's been done since then or if Leon Spinks did it, but you know, it's a good fault because obviously Leon fought Ali twice. But was Leon a 2-time heavyweight world champion? I don't know. But anyway, he wasn't the first guy to regain it though.
God damn it!
What? So Leon Spinks' son was a world champion, was he?
Well, yeah, Leon's son of Corey Spinks.
Ah, okay. God,
that's why.
That was a good one though.
And it was a very good one. Okay, who is it now? So I can be upset with myself for not knowing this.
Okay.
And he fought Ali twice.
Are you ready for this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Floyd Patterson and his son Tracy Harris Patterson.
Right. And you know what's funny? Right? When you first was going to say it, I thought you were going to say Customato's first big fighter. Well, you know, I guess one of the guys he trains when he was, you know, before he trained Mike. I thought you were going to say Floyd Patterson. So I was in my mind, once again, thinking the right answer. But for the wrong reason, but it was still the right answer. And it just pains me that sometimes, like I probably should have just said it, even if I wasn't sure, because I know he regained the title because I forget how he lost it to Sonny Liston or something like that.
Do you know what?
And,
I think he did.
Or did he?
I think he did lose it. Yeah, he did lose it to Sonny. I'm sure he did.
He definitely lost to Sonny, but I'm trying to remember how he got it back. I know he beat someone and got it back.
He beat Ingemar Johansson to get it back.
There you go. Ingemar Johansson. There you go. Yeah. Yes.
Well,
that's how he did.
I liked you. You did really well with the Leon Spinks one, man. I mean, man, we don't give out half a point, but you deserve half a point, man. That was good thinking. I mean, because
I'm thinking Corey Spinks.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
he was a world champion. He boxed Ali twice. His son was a world champion. Now that was good thinking. But obviously, when I said that his dad was heavyweight champion in the 60s, Leon Spinks didn't come around till the late 70s.
Right.
So
to the late 70s, and that's where I screwed up. When you said I didn't listen enough to the time, when I asked for the time, you said the 60s, and it's like, damn, that's what I should have. And that was my first choice. My first thought was Floyd Patterson in my head. I swear to God, I do this every time. But then watch the next time. But watch the next time I say it, and then I'm gonna be wrong. That's the only thing I'm talking about. Like I might have like 3-4 wins, you know, more than I have. But now I got another L because I didn't say my first thought. I don't know why I was thinking that, but you didn't. But when I asked you, or when you completed the first clue, it had nothing to do with Mike Tyson or Customato. So I was like, it's probably not that. Yeah. When I could have just said, fuck it, I'm going to say it anyway. And I didn't even think about Floyd Patterson's son, Tracy Harris. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think. I swear that never even came to mind. He had a son. and of course now I remember that, and I'm like, yo, that's crazy. That was actually a really good question.
Yeah.
Especially how close it was. Like, if I would have never asked for the times, it would have been like, damn. You know what I mean? But he wasn't the first, so one way or the other, even if Leon did regain the title, he still wouldn't have been the first one.
Yeah, but no, it was a good question and a good try as well, good effort. And just to correct myself, he won the world title, he was world champion, then he lost it to Ingemar Johansson, then they had a rematch and he regained it off of him. Then they had the third fight and he again retained the belt. He ended up losing it after that to Sonny Liston in one round. Yeah, and then that was the end of his reign. He went on to box Muhammad Ali, like we say, twice more, but never regained the title. So yeah, interesting. Great question. Moving on though to the preview part, because we took quite long on that. Moving on to the preview part, we're going to start here tomorrow at the Wembley Arena in Wembley, London, United Kingdom. Let's start with the undercard. Lerone Richards, Matchroom's new signing, 13-0, the former British middleweight champion, or is he super middleweight? I'm forgetting now myself. But anyway, he takes on Timo Lane, who's 28-14. That's a strange one. Shannon Courtney, she gets out for the first time since losing her 5-1 in an 8 2-minute round contest against Dorota Narek, who's 6-1. Zach Parker, 19-0, friend of the show. He fights for the vacant WBO International Super Middleweight title against Cesar Nunez, who's 17-2 with a draw. I think this is some kind of eliminator as well for him. He's been high in the WBO rankings for a long time now. James Tennyson, 27-3, takes on Josh O'Reilly, who's 16-0. That one's over 12 rounds there. And the main event, Billy Joe Saunders, 29-0, in search of win number 30. He takes on Martin Murray, 39-5 with a draw. That one's for Billy Joe's WBO Super Middleweight World title. Not a fight I'm looking forward to at all. It was supposed to take place a couple years ago when Billy Joe was with Frank Warren, and obviously it didn't end up happening because Billy Joe pulled out once or twice, and now it's happening. And you know, since then, Martin Murray's racked up a couple losses. He's retired. He's come out of retirement. Billy Joe's moved up in weight. He hasn't looked good, as even Eddie Hearn said. He hasn't looked good in any of his fights at super middleweight. I just can't believe it's happening. It's not a fight I'm looking forward to at all. Martin Murray's tough as they come. He really is such a tough guy. Only guy to get him out of there was Triple G, I think, in round 11. And yeah, he almost took Triple G the distance and ended that 22 or 23 KO streak that he ended up going on. So Billy Joe Saunders to win that one on points in quite a boring fight, sadly. Anyway, that's on Friday. On Saturday at the Church House back in Westminster, London, the undercard is okay. We get to see Dennis McCann, 7-0. He's in an 8-rounder against Pedro Matos, who's 7-3. We also get to see Michael Rambolezza, 18-17. Not sure what's going on here. This one's for the vacant WBC International Super Bantamweight title. He takes on Chris Bourke. But the main event, this is really where it's all happening, up at light heavyweight for the Commonwealth light heavyweight title. We get to see Lyndon Arthur, 17-0. King Lyndon Arthur against Anthony Yarde, 20-1. Obviously, Anthony Yarde known for his Lions in the Camp mantra, so they're billing this as the Lion versus the King. So, you know, it's good. This is a great fight. Lyndon Arthur probably the smoother, cleaner boxer, certainly with the deeper pedigree, but Anthony Yarde, so heavy-handed, can crack with both hands, been at world level, even though he got knocked out by Kovalev. For me, I think Anthony Yarde is far too good for Arthur. I could be eating those words this time next week, but I just think he's too good. He hits too hard. Lyndon Arthur, for me, yeah, I'm not that impressed. I have to be honest. You know, all the best to both men, of course. Anthony Yarde, though, is the man that I'd like to see come through. Moving out now, stateside. The undercard really not up to much at all. Yeah, actually, it's really not up to anything apart from Eduardo Ramirez, 23-2 with 3 draws. He's in a 12-rounder against Miguel Flores, friend of the show. Really nice guy, Flores. He's 24-3. I wish him all the best for sure. Nothing else really going on that undercard. You get to see Sebastian Fundora against Habib Ahmed. That's a good fight, actually, over 12 rounds. But let's get straight to it. It's the final fight to mention, Eddie. It's for the WBC and IBF welterweight world titles. Errol Spence Jr. back in the ring for the first time since the high-speed car crash in which he was extremely lucky to be in a ring this soon, considering, the injuries weren't, that serious, which is just unbelievable. The Angels were with him in that situation there, but he's back against Danny Garcia. It's a tough fight to come back to considering he had the car crash, but if he hadn't have had the car crash, for me, this wouldn't have been, it's a good fight, it's a good name, but I've been saying it for a long, long time now. Errol Spence keeps fighting guys way smaller than him. He keeps fighting guys that are 140 fighters coming up. Danny has kind of established himself at 147, but really and truly, he is a true 140. I think he's only up here for the big paydays, but not knocking it too much. It's a great fight. I think Errol wins on points. I don't think he stops Garcia. I think Garcia is tough as hell, and I think he's got a very brave corner. I couldn't ever see Angel Garcia throwing a towel in. I don't even think he owns a towel. Well, he probably does to get out of the shower with, but he doesn't bring it to fight nights. But I can't see the towel being thrown in. I can't see him getting stopped, even though Errol is such a big puncher and he's so much bigger. I think it's a smooth and easy points win, though, for Errol Spence. How do you see it, though?
I see it, honestly, it's a good fight. It's a real dangerous fight, though, especially coming back off the accident, not being active, obviously, for a good while now. Earl's used to being kind of busy and, just being in the gym and just being around boxing in general, training and all, it's kind of easy to, be a step or two slow when you're not able to do that every day. Trust me, I know this. But I think even if he was at his best, this would be a dangerous fight for him because Danny Garcia is a different, the style. You know what I mean? Earl is kind of in your face. He's kind of a pressure guy. He has a full array of offense. You know what I mean? He goes to the body, goes to the head. He's aggressive, big puncher. You know what I mean? And like you say, he's a big, tough, strong kid. However, the problem Danny's had a lot of the time is sometimes a little, he can be outboxed a little bit, like when you looked at when he fought, can't remember his name, kid from Florida. Jesus, I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. Oh, my gosh. Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman. Yeah, sorry. And not saying that I felt like Thurman was, miles ahead of him or anything like that with the boxing, but he was just edging him in certain spots. And don't get me wrong, I really think Danny has the ability to box. He just doesn't really use it at this point because he believes so much in his power. And, he's still accurate. He still has good qualities as a fighter in general. He got his good eyes. He's sharp when he's on point. And but his thing that I think really makes this fight dangerous for Earl is that he punches with you at times. And like when he knocked out Amir Khan, just throwing shots. And a lot of guys were saying he basically had his eyes closed when he threw the shot. I don't know about that, but I do know that he's not necessarily afraid to throw shots with you, and he can take a good shot. I've seen him in there and I know I'm going back a little bit now, but when he was in there with Kendall Holt, and Kendall Holt is a massive puncher, in my opinion. I've just seen the reaction of the guys he's fought and how he's knocked guys out, even though he's been knocked out himself. He was a really, really big puncher, and he's landing clean shots on Danny, and Danny's coming back, and I think Danny ends up stopping him. So it's just like he has that in his background to be able to take shots. And I don't want to say you don't want to take shots. I don't like the idea of taking punches unnecessarily. But if you have to, it's nice to know that you have that. And with a guy like Errol Spence, and you've seen this with numerous fights with him, he's going to be willing to dish it out. So you've got to be understanding to the fact that you might take some. And I think Danny does have that with his game. He has that understanding. He doesn't look like a tough guy, but he is a tough guy. And once again, like I said, he punches with you, sometimes unexpectedly, and throws shots that seem like they may not actually work or be kind of out of bounds with the situation, but it always seems to work for him. And he, not always, but most of the time it has worked for him. And I just see this fight as a dangerous fight for Errol Spence. I'm not saying that Earl Spence is going to lose. I'm not saying that he's going to be knocked out or be exposed, quote unquote. That's bullcrap in my opinion. But I think that he's going to definitely have to answer some questions in this particular fight. And, obviously Danny's going to be the big underdog, even though, Earl had the accident and all. But I feel like he's going to have to really answer some questions. He's going to have to, first of all, he's going to have to be, is he going to be back as he was before the accident? And is he going to be able to deal with Danny when Danny lands heavy shots on him? Because this is a different kid throwing shots now. I'm not saying Sean Porter's not a heavy puncher. I'm not saying that. But I think Danny's a bit of a heavier puncher than that. I think if he catches you with those same shots that Sean Porter caught him with, maybe a bigger reaction,
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd agree with that bit. I think even Kell Brook is a bigger puncher than Danny Garcia, in my opinion. But
really?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Honestly, maybe that may be true, but just from what I've seen, you know what I'm saying? What I've seen in both their fights. I've obviously seen Kell Brook, and he's done good things with his boxing ability. I thought his punching, his ability and his shots and all that stuff were based on more his accuracy and his boxing ability more so than his power. I'm not saying he doesn't have power. Yeah. They all have power. But Danny Garcia, I've seen, and it's not just his power. I think it's his timing with the shots too. I think he has a good understanding of timing with these shots. That's why when he hit, like Maidana's probably a bigger puncher than all of them. And Amir Khan went the distance with Maidana. You know what I'm saying? And in fact, he almost stopped Maidana. And so, everybody's talking about how weak of a chin Amir Khan has. But I just think it's the shots he got caught with. Look at Canelo. Look at Danny's shot. You know what I'm saying? Look at what the hell is the guy's name that he got stopped with? I can't remember his name right now. But the first time he's been stopped. You understand what I'm saying? I think a lot of these shots and a lot of these people's chins are questioned based on the times they've been hit. And I'm not saying that Danny's a harder puncher than all those guys that we mentioned. I'm just saying his timing for it has been really, really good. Like when he lands his power shots, his timing has been good. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I just think since moving up from 140, his first fight was against Paulie Malignaggi. He stopped him in 9 rounds. Then he went the distance with Robert Guerrero. Then he stopped Samuel Vargas, who's a tough guy, to be honest. But, he stopped him, okay, whatever. Then he lost the very close one with Keith Thurman. It wasn't a landslide. It was close. I think Thurman did enough to win. Then he knocked out Brandon Rios, which, doesn't say too much. Then he had the really close fight. Well, it wasn't really close, but he had the fight with Sean Porter. It was close early on. Then he knocked out Adrian Granados, and then in his last fight, he went the distance with Ivan Redkach. So I don't think he's had the most impressive run at 147, but I just think that Errol, for me, is too big, too strong, too active, too because he's obviously a southpaw as well. That's too tricky, too powerful. I can't see anything that Danny has better than him. Maybe he's got slightly better timing. Maybe I don't think Errol's got a bad chin at all. I don't think there's anything that Danny can trouble him with, to be honest.
Well,
Danny's quite slow as well. I think he's very slow.
That's the thing. Timing beats speed. And I don't necessarily think he's overly fast or he's overly slow. I think he's, even pace with the punching speed. But what I mean about is when I'm looking at Earl and how he is invested in his offense. And I've always said that one thing about Earl Spence that always makes me kind of like, is he's not the best defensive fighter because he doesn't really focus much on that part of it as much as he should. I feel like especially earlier in his career, he was basically defending just based off of basically putting his hands up and taking a half step back, which is fine. But when shots would come, if put it this way, if we're in punching range and I'm getting almost hit all the time, not necessarily getting hit, but almost getting hit all the time, I don't have any kind of understanding of how to defend properly. Like if I'm standing in front of a guy, he can shoot his whole clip at me and he's probably going to come up empty. You understand what I'm saying? Won't hit me once. Other times, you may graze you. You may have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, touch you here and there, but it's not going to be anything like that. What I'm looking at Earl is he sometimes gets hit. And I mean, that's great that he can take it, and he's tough and he's there, and he's like when I'm watching him fight Sean Porter, and I'm like, he's taking shots, you know what I mean, and taking good shots, you know what I'm saying? Like with a guy like Danny Garcia, who is really good at timing his big shots and punching with you when sometimes you don't expect it. If he catches him in one of those situations, anything can happen. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe it doesn't happen at all. But what if it does? Will he be okay? You know what I'm saying? Especially right after the car accident. You understand what I'm saying? Not right after it, but you know what I mean. And I know you're saying I don't really see anything that's going to trouble him, but I'm just looking at it as we're all pros, and they're all pros and elite pros. At some point, if you make a mistake, one or two mistakes, nobody thought that Danny Garcia would beat Amir Khan. Look where he's at now. You understand what I'm saying? Any of these things anything can happen. And that's the only reason why I'm saying this is a dangerous fight.
Yeah, I mean, look,
for those reasons.
Danny's two losses obviously were on points. The Thurman one was close; it was a split decision, and the Porter one, was still relatively close, even though he lost. So if Errol is to make a statement, do a job on Danny Garcia, beat him really wide or stop him or something like that, crash or no crash, that's a huge statement. I'll take that 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though it's not the fight I want to see, because I want to see the Crawford fight like everyone else does. But yeah, right. I'm okay with this fight, especially after the car crash. But yeah, I'm okay with this fight. I'm not complaining. I'll be watching it, but I don't think he struggles with Danny. That's just my opinion. We shall see.
Well,
go on.
Let me ask. If there was no car crash at all, and they announced this fight, would you still be excited about it, or are you like,
No. They did announce it, and I think it's been pushed back because of the car crash. I think it was going to be happening.
Okay. So no car crash or not, you would still say, okay, well, this is an interesting fight regardless.
Yeah,
because did that play a part?
No. Because again, I think they had the fight made. I think it was going to be happening in a matter of weeks, and then he had the car crash and it got put off. I believe that's what happened. But yeah, I wasn't overly looking forward to it when it first got made. I thought, it's a good name, but I don't know. Danny at 147, it's another small guy. I want to see him in with a big guy. I want to see him in with the best of the best. I don't think Danny is one. I mean, he is one of the best at 147, but he's not. There's still, in my opinion, 5 or 6 guys that I pick above him. One of them is Sean Porter. He boxed him. No problem with that. That was a good fight. That was a great fight. It told us a lot about Errol Spence. But since the car crash, I don't think it's going to affect him. There's some people that watch his interviews and say, oh, look, he doesn't seem the same. He's slurring his words. What's he going to be like when he takes a punch? I don't know what they're seeing. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm watching it thinking...
They're just looking for something.
Yeah, like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, just... What's the point? Like, just... Are you just... I don't know. Whatever, man. People that are doing that, I just... Whatever. I haven't seen it. Maybe they've seen something I haven't seen. But for me, with the car crash, I don't think it's going to bother him. I don't think he's going to be, a completely different fighter. And to be honest with you, even if he is somewhat affected, I still think he could beat Danny Garcia, in my honest opinion, man.
Yeah, no, I mean
depends how affected he is. Obviously, I haven't got a clue, man, what he's been through.
I'm gonna say it like this. I think in this fight, whether he's been in a car crash or not, I still think the fight will be dangerous one way or the other, especially watching him against Sean Porter. And I'm not saying it because the guy who beats the guy can beat the guy. You understand what I'm saying? What I mean by that is it's all about styles, and it's all about how you match up. Because say Sean Porter loses to Earl Spence can lose to Danny, and then Sean Porter. You know what I mean? It's just like this kind of cycle can happen, and just one day one fighter can be good, and it's just that way. So it doesn't really matter.
I think, Eddie, I think that the way to beat Errol Spence is you've got to be big enough and strong enough to push him back, or stand with him and box with him and kind of stand center in the ring. I wouldn't say trade all the time, but be clever about your exchanges, like what Brook did until he got his eye smashed in again. You know, that was a really good fight up until the late rounds, and there were times where Brook was you know, I wouldn't say controlling the fight completely, but he was winning rounds. It was comfortable. It was a great watch. But with Sean Porter, a guy that's, you know, he's very strong. He's like a pit bull. He's coming forward. He's pushing Spence back for the first time in his career that I've seen. Danny's not going to do that. Danny's going to be the one in the retreat.
I think Danny's a good mix of both. You know what I'm saying? And I could tell you he's a lot stronger than you think.
Yeah, but do you think he's gonna be the one pressing the action? I think he's gonna be the one going backwards.
No. I don't know about him necessarily going backwards per se, but I don't think the fight's gonna go like that. Like he's gonna be trying to bully him or anything like that. I think he's gonna be trying to catch him in between shots. I think just like he always fights. You know what I'm saying? I think he's gonna do what he always does, but I think that particular thing, his timing, was gonna make the fight difficult at times for Spence. You know what I mean? Especially if Spence is going to the body. And when you go to the body, you know if you go to the body, you got to put your hands down to do it. When you put your hands down to go to the body, the timing could be there. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that, you know, if you put it on paper, Spence should dominate. But fights aren't fought on paper. Fights are fought in the ring. And when that happens, all these other little factors that play a part are involved in the fight. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I'm saying that this fight is just dangerous just on that front alone. Not even with the car crash. Of course, with the car crash, it adds a little bit to it. I just think the fight in itself is dangerous for Spence because of what Danny brings to the table and the kind of fighter he is. I'm not saying it because he's from Philly. I'm not saying it because I know him. And I'm saying it because of his style. That's it.
Okay, well, there you have it. It was a longer debate than I thought it would be on that fight there, but you know, if you want to watch if you want to watch more action, then tune in on Saturday night for that one. Of course, like I say, it's going to be on. I'm not even sure. I think it's Fox pay-per-view out there actually.
It is?
Yeah, I think it's Fox pay-per-view. So, yeah, that's unfortunate, actually, that it's on pay-per-view. But hopefully they share it over here in the UK somehow. I think it's on Fight TV, actually. But anyways, that is the end of the preview part. We did Eddie's trivia question. We did the review part. We did the news. We had our sole guest on this week's show. And, yeah, like I say, lockdown, knockdown, we're definitely going to get it done at some point very, very soon. It's just been... It's been difficult to kind of find the time for it, which sounds crazy because this podcast has gone on a lot longer than I initially thought it would do. But anyway, that's it for everything. The final thing I just want to do here is just thank you once again, Eddie, for joining me. And yeah, it's always great speaking with you, man. I run out of things to say when I get to this point because I've said everything a million times before. But thanks once again for this.
Not a problem, man. You know how much I enjoyed doing this too, and actually it was a good back and forth debate about these interesting fights coming up, man. I just, you know, I enjoy this aspect of it. I mean, I haven't been active in the sport right now, and I haven't done commentary in a while, so it's nice to be able to do some of these things and get a chance to go back and forth with you because you're really a knowledgeable person, Joey. You really do put a lot of effort into this, and I hope people understand and see that, or not necessarily see it, but hear it. You know what I mean, within the podcast. So it's good stuff.
Oh, nice words, man. I appreciate them. But listen, Eddie, always great speaking with you. Like I say, the final thing to do is just to sign out with the outro, which I'm going to do in just a few seconds' time. Okay, and this wraps up episode 268 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the former British, Commonwealth and European welterweight champion, Mr. Sam Eggington. There's been no further news announced since recording the main part of the show, so that makes my job a bit easier. But that's pretty much everything from myself. The biggest thanks, of course, of all goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for listening this week. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.